Good evening, everybody, and welcome to day 21 of the 90-day challenge. It's the end of week 3, not the beginning of week 3, as I said earlier, and had to fix it. But it's the end of week 3.
Nobody even knew that. This is like take 3.
I know, but that's okay. I can be transparent. So, anyway, the end of week 3, day 21, or blackjack, if that's your thing. I know that's a popular game, which I love to play, and we sit around and play blackjack as a family every now and then. Don't judge us, but I don't know. Some people can be judgy about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
My mom being one. She was upset we taught the kids how to play blackjack.
I know, and Texas Hold'em.
Yeah. So, anyway, last night when we were with you guys, we sort of introed some of the responses that we got off of April's Facebook question about being in a blended family. So the first thing we thought we would talk about would be expectations, and specifically expectations in relationships. Mm-hmm. Because when we got married, neither one of us had very clear expectations, and the expectations that we did have did not mesh very well. They didn't gel. Mm-mm. So
it's like oil and water.
Tell everybody about sort of how you expected things to be.
Well, I think that, both of us expected things to just rock along like it had for our entire adult life, because we'd been doing pretty good with the exception of the failed marriage, which, of course, a lot of that has to do with the other person and not necessarily you. Mm-hmm. It's a much better day whenever you figure out you had a lot of fault in it and fix those things. But our expectation coming in was just, I think, that we would rock along and we would get into our groove and we would start blending and it would be awesome. And for me, I had been used to being the breadwinner. And whenever I was the one that I worked 10, 12 hours a day, and I enjoyed that. And as soon as we were, maybe 2 or 3 weeks away from the wedding, Rockford said, "I feel like God's saying that you should stay home with the kids." I'm like, whoa, that is not what I'm feeling God saying.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Over at L's?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah. Which was pretty scary because it was, okay, we're going to go down to one income and I'm going to stay home with the kids, which is not necessarily anything that I had wanted to do from a young age, because I had already, I had already went through and I'm going to do this and I'm going to be successful and this is how I determined all of that. You determined
that you wanted to be a career woman.
Yeah.
I think you said at one point you were wanting to go to school to be a lawyer.
Yeah, I wanted to be a divorce attorney.
Was that before or after you got divorced?
That was before.
Yeah.
It was before I ever got married. I wanted to be a divorce attorney just because of our experience with my parents' divorce attorneys and custody family law attorneys, because neither of them handled it very well for the kids, and it was something that I felt like it could have been done differently. They tried to pit us against the parents, and that's not how that should go down.
Okay, so you wanted to be a career woman. Mm-hmm. We started out, and sort of right off the bat, your expectation of being breadwinner and making the money and contributing in that way sort of all shot up at that point.
Well, actually it didn't. I mean, you had said that, and then I continued to commute for 6 months after we got married. And that was extremely difficult on everybody. And then Rockford finally put his foot down, because that was his expectation, I think, was that he was going to continue on as just I said it, that's the end of it.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
So I moved my business to Stillwater and was able to stay at home quite a bit more and then go while the kids were in school. Mm-hmm. So. And
you had what? It was like maybe 1.5 years, 2 years with Thomas and Lauren at home.
Yeah.
And then after that, everybody was in school, and so that freedom sort of came back to do a little bit more work, and so.
Yeah, and once we hit them in school, then I had hit the groove to where I wanted to be home whenever they got off the bus. Because up until the last couple of years, they were able to, Rockford would drop them off at school, and then I would be home for them to get off the bus so that there was somebody here with them in the afternoons.
Some of the other expectations that we went into this with, and it's probably an expectation that everybody has whenever you get married, and that is how the other person should argue. So when I argue, I want to get it all out and work through it from beginning to end. Resolution must be had before you can move on. And she was never that way, and still to this day can be pretty stubborn about it.
And I think some of that has to do with the way that you're raised. Because,
well, it has a lot to do with how you're raised, but
Yeah.
still you carry that expectation into your relationships, whether it's a relationship in marriage or a dating relationship or even a work relationship to some degree, depends on the position that you hold. But she was always very quiet, and she kept things internalized. And so when you had me on the one hand, like, we're going to solve this and we're going to solve it right now, and she's on the other hand going,
and one thing that it took him a while to understand is that my entire family has what we call the frowny face. And so whenever the frowny face comes out, we are at a point of impasse. We are not going past here. And then as you continue to push, we get this angry laugh. And it is like a, I'm going to murder you if you don't shut up laugh. And so he would say, it's not funny. And I'd say, oh, believe me, I know.
So those were some of the expectations that we started with. What we sort of got to the point 5 years ago when God changed us and in turn changed our marriage was help to reshape the expectation that we had of each other. My goal is not to be self-serving, obviously, in this deal. And it's not even to serve my wife as the highest goal. My highest goal is to honor the Lord with what it is that I do and how I carry myself. My second responsibility is to serve my wife. And she sees things the same way. That her highest goal is to honor the Lord in everything that she does, and then her second goal is to serve her husband. And so, through some difficult battles, I would say, we began to implement these new expectations onto our relationship, where we can disagree about something and yet still resolve it dependent upon the situation. Now, there are some times that we're going to solve it and we're going to solve it right now. And there are some times that we're going to say, okay, this is too much. Let's revisit this later. So we've learned over the last 5 years sort of how to feel that out. And there's even sometimes that we will do it both at the same time. There will be enough of a conversation about what the issue is so that we both understand, and then we'll go our separate ways and come back later to have that discussion. So that's one way that expectation changed. So God can change expectations. It just takes a lot of prayer, a lot of patience, and a lot of hiding out in what it is that God's called you to be, hiding out in His Word, hiding out in letting Him do the speaking for you, biting your tongue. Almost bit through mine a couple of times. So.
Yeah, and it's not just expectations here, but even expectations with the kids. Mm-hmm. You know, they they were very hesitant at the beginning because they didn't know, is this going to be the real deal? Is it not going to be the real deal? And you'll see kind of in like Jaden's, where she, up until high school, she was like, okay, is this going to stick or is this not going to stick? And then finally she said, this is my family. And so even watching their expectations, because they have other people that are involved in this and speak to them or don't speak to them, which causes their expectations to be different as well. Mm-hmm. So that's been interesting navigating. And the specific thing that was on the Facebook was about a child that is invested in the spouse, and that she is latched on to him even though he didn't come into her life until she was 8. I would say that's a lot that has happened with Allison too, because she really was hesitant at first to get really close to Rockford. And then as they built that relationship, it is Rockford who she looks to or calls and says, hey, how would I do this? Or what do you think about this? Or, hey, I just yelled at Mom.
Yeah.
And he says, hey, you should probably call and apologize.
Yeah. Had one of those the other day, just to be clear.
Yeah. She's just moved to Texas, and so we're still filling out those expectations of living in a different state. And
her being an adult. I mean,
being an adult,
she's got to learn to make adult decisions. And so, at some point you got to go, well, good luck with that.
Yeah. And for her, I'm glad that she's able to have him. It still makes my heart a little bit sad because she doesn't have that relationship with her father. And that is by his choosing, by his actions. So
there are expectations that we as parents place on all of the kids. We expect them to maybe act like the Brady Bunch. The Brady Bunch television show sort of made that seem like it was instantaneous. We've been doing this for 11 years, and there's still some days that...
See, and I think that's where we're different, because you expect them to be like the Brady Bunch, and I'm like, no, I had siblings all close to my age. All this fighting, that's normal. And you're like, I don't think it's normal.
Well, not so much the fighting, it's just the togetherness of it. This we are one family, and that takes time. Yeah, kids fight. That's what they do. So,
but it is good to see, like Jaden saying, I do miss everybody. I do, realize now what you've told me for years.
Yeah.
So
there's expectations that we have on relationships with the kids, whether they're biological children or stepchildren. Allison and I have gotten to have a pretty good relationship, and there are certain parts about it with Thomas that are good, and there are certain parts that I wish were much, much better. And it's taken some time for Thomas and I to find some common ground, but there are days that I see really good things coming out of that relationship, and some days it's a struggle. My prayer is that he knows that I love him and care about him just like if he was my own, and we'll watch out for him and we'll push him to be better no matter what the circumstances are, because he's our son. And so the expectation doesn't always meet the reality in those situations. But as parents, as step parents, our responsibility is to follow through with what we know is right, rather than give in to, this doesn't feel good. This is not what I expected it to be, so I'm just going to give up. And so we have to fight through that.
Yeah. And I feel like my relationship with the three blondes, it was rocky at the beginning, and part of that was because they were hurt. It's just the way that goes. And my relationship with Jaden and Reagan has come a long way from those beginning days. And with Lauren, I honestly feel like Lauren is one that I've been with her since she has memory, and that has caused her a little bit of just pain because she doesn't have any memory of any other way. And so she's probably the only one that really wonders what the other side is like. And I think that that causes her to have expectations of what it might be like. And so that is, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That is a struggle that she goes through internally. And she hopefully will work through that in the next few years, and it'll be awesome.
So, to sort of wrap things up, expectations are good and bad. Mm-hmm. We all have expectations, and you have to have expectation of what you think it can be, but don't let that get in the way of what is. The expectation, when placed on a pedestal higher than what is actually happening, creates resentment. When you shift your expectation as you move because the situation requires it, it allows you to find contentment in the situation that you find yourself. So have expectation, want good things, seek good things, but be willing to adjust as it comes. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Day 22 tomorrow.
Yes, and it is the beginning of week 4. And tomorrow is Grandma's 79th birthday.
Yeah, my mother turns 79 tomorrow. She'd be mad if we were telling her age.
Oh, she would not.
No, she's proud of being 79. But
yeah.
We're going to go to dinner with her tomorrow and enjoy and celebrate her. And then don't forget, November 4th, 40-Day Prayer Challenge begins. Mm-hmm. We have the links to the books and all of that down below in the Facebook group as well. So make sure you check that out and make sure you subscribe, leave us comments.
And also for those that have already joined the group on Facebook, go ahead and invite your friends, because your friends are able to pray with you and for you in ways that maybe we're not. So we're going to pray for you in ways that you ask us to, but they know you too, so they're able to pray differently.
Okay. All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow, day 22. Mm-hmm. See ya.